Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse hit theaters last weekend, but is it as good as people are saying it is? That's what we're going to talk about in this week's episode of Inked Cinema.
And it starts right now!
Aloha and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jake, and on this episode we're covering Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. As I review this movie, I'll be making a linocut cyanotype of Miles. Stick around to the end to see how it turns out. Directed by Joaquim dos Santos, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a roller coaster of animation brilliance, proving once again why Spider-Man is one of the best superheroes of all time. This movie is already setting records, with the first being the largest crew, approximately 1,000 people, on an animated film ever. The first film was a quiet hit until word of mouth kicked in, which led to a huge win at the Oscars for Best Animated Feature in 2019. With a cinema score of A and a 95% fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes among both critics and audiences, it's clear that the Spider-Verse saga isn't just a flash in a pan. It's the frontrunner, once again, for next year's Best Animated Feature Academy Award. As of June 8th, 2023, it's done $236 million worldwide on an opening of $120 million. Mind you, it's been out for a week and a day. Even with Transformers out this weekend and The Flash out next, I still think it'll continue to do solid numbers for the next few weeks. Spoiler warning, I won't be going over any major cameos or plot points, but if you want to go in blind, don't watch this review. Whether you watch my review or not, I definitely recommend going to see this movie. Watching Across the Spider-Verse was exhilarating. It never feels slow or draggy, yet consistently gives emotional scenes the air to breathe in between all of the action. With an ambitious project of this size, I'm surprised that all the art styles used in this movie blend together so well. I don't know how in the world they coordinated with all the art studios that worked on the film, but however they did it, bravo. I didn't even hear whispers of mismanagement or overworking behind the scenes, and I'll acknowledge that it's still possible artists were pushed to the edge like other intense movies, but I'm glad we didn't hear any of that on this one, which is a good sign. I love that they took creative risks that further pushed the boundaries of animated filmmaking. Every Spider-Man had a distinct, specific style. My favorites were Spider-Man India and Spider-Punk. Their costume designs and the way they moved through the movie were completely unique. There's so much detail that you could blink and miss something. I can't wait to get my hands on a physical copy so I can go through each frame and appreciate all the work the artists put into this film. Yes, there were Easter eggs, but they were never thrown at you at weird times, and we weren't overwhelmed by them all. They were there, but the story didn't rely on them. Very different from Super Mario Bros., who hit you over the head with the damn Easter eggs and squeezed as many as they could into one movie. Just saying. Gwen Stacy. She went from a cool supporting character to a huge piece of the narrative. I liked that the movie opened with her instead of going the predictable route. Her look changed when she was in her universe, and it's clear she's matured quite a bit since the first movie. Getting a peek into her backstory got me invested in her, and I understood her motivations behind what she did in the movie. It was also just nice to have a feminine energy hanging out with Miles and the many other Spider-Men. Plus, she's got a Protect Trans Kids banner hanging above her doorway, so I'm a stan no matter what. Miles Morales, he's just trying to find his place in the world as Spider-Man, and unfortunately for him, his world has gotten a lot bigger. All the other Spider-Man we know have gone through this same thing, but with Miles, it's even more confusing, since he wasn't supposed to be bitten in the first place. But if we've learned anything from this movie, it's that there is no supposed to anything. I get that some could argue there are certain things that should happen, but the whole idea of a multiverse opens the world up to a vast expanse of creativity. And that's exactly what we got with this movie. Bitch, I'm pulling out the big words today. Vast expanse. I like Miles, but more than that, I like the people who surround and support him, like his parents, Gwen, and Peter B. Parker. He's always got someone looking out for him, even when he feels like he doesn't. Peter B. Parker, he's back, and this time with a spider baby. He's everything. She was giving Jack from The Incredibles. Yeah, where she might be mischievous, curious, and dangerous, but somehow always finds a way to survive. Peter has a soft spot for Miles, and the relationship they share is so sweet and wholesome. In a way, Miles was his kid before he had his spider baby. I also think he sees a bit of himself in Miles. Spider-Man 2099. He's hot. That's it. He's hot. Okay, but really, I get that he wants to make sure everything is right in the multiverse and all, but something is off about this guy. Yes, he looks badass in that outfit, real tight, but I feel like there's definitely part of his story he's not telling us. People like Jessica just trust him so easily when we don't know exactly what he could be cooking up there. I think for him, this Spider-Man brigade gives him purpose. It means a lot to him. He's lost everyone he loves, and he's trying to build a home for himself, which causes him to make some questionable decisions. In the end, I don't think he's a bad guy. He's like a lot of us. He lies somewhere in the middle. The villain of this movie, Spot, had an interesting character arc where he went from this clumsy, unassuming guy with powers he couldn't figure out to the one person who could destroy everything. Kind of love that for him. I was rooting for him and his ATM break-in at the beginning, but when he started blaming Miles for everything, I tapped out. Miles is a kid. He's doing his best out here. Okay? Some other characters I was into is, of course, Lego Spider-Man with the vocal sound effects. That shit had me cackling. Boop, boop. Which, fun fact, that entire Lego sequence was animated by a 14-year-old kid. So cool. I also liked the Avatar Spidey named Spider-Bite and Spider-Man India. His style of swinging by using his kendama was truly unique. His look was one of the best, and the way his hair sits perfectly coiffed outside of his mask was a nice touch. Hobie, Spider-Punk, was the standout. I even thought, why is this man part of this Superman League if he's fully against the machine, rage against the machine? So when he left and then helped Miles, it made me happy that someone was rooting for the kid. Also, really dig the accent, which I know is Daniel's natural accent, but he doesn't get to use it in his roles often. The music of the first film set the tone for this Spider-Man story, and Sunflower went on to become a mega hit. So going into this one, I knew the music had to be killer. With music by Metro Boomin and score by Daniel Pemberton, the sonic story of this film was taken up a whole other level. Boomin's tracks blended beautifully with Pemberton's orchestrations, and you can tell that they both took risks that ultimately paid off. My favorite song from the score is Spider-Woman, Gwen Stacy, because of that riff. You know the one? I also love what he did with the Indian sounds in Spider-Man India and Mumbattan Madness. My favorites off the soundtrack are Am I Dreaming and Annihilate. I also loved the James Blake feature on Hummingbird. It's a totally different sound when you look at the rest of Metro's tracks, but it just works, and it fits nicely into the film, too. The way this movie ended initially had me annoyed. I completely forgot that this was a part 1, so while I was expecting a cliffhanger, I didn't know it was gonna be like that. For some reason, I was convinced the movie wasn't even close to over, and then it just ended. After sleeping on it for a few days, it made complete sense, and Honestly, it was a near perfect second movie. Many sequels just try to replicate what they did the first time, but this one had a central story that is laced through all three while also keeping its own contained sense of identity. So it makes sense why they left it off like that. We won't even have to wait that long for the next one either, as it's slated to be out in March of 2024. This leads me to believe they went from one right into the other, similar to how the All the Boys 2 and 3 were filmed. Although, the amount of work for the Spider-Verse films has got to be insane, which explains why they employed so many people. I like this approach way more than just piling work onto fewer people with tighter deadlines, like we've heard whispers of before. These big studios make insane amounts of money, so it's good to hear this one took notes and tried to create a healthy work environment for everyone involved. The success of this movie is due in part by not marketing this film as a part 1. I'm looking at you, Mission Impossible. It was first announced as a part 1, but they completely erased that from the title later on and never used it as a crutch in posters, commercials, or social media. The people involved knew that the power of the first film was gonna drive people to the theaters to see the second. It also reminds us just how important the creatives are to this process. Yes, you can say some of the success is because it's a Spider-Man movie, but people wouldn't be as obsessed with it as they are without the elements that make this one completely unique, like its diversity, the insanely detailed art styles, and the ultra creative storytelling. People aren't going because it's being put out by Sony or even that it's a Marvel character. They're going because they know there is truly something for everyone. And knowing that that spirit of filmmaking is baked into the center of the Spider-Verse saga makes me so excited to see how they're going to wrap it up next spring, and how it will affect the filmmaking industry in general. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a vibrant, expressive, and refreshing take that once again highlights the heart of this superhero, that anybody could be Spider-Man. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Ink Cinema. Look out for next week's review of Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Thank you for watching. My name is Jake Okoa, and may the power protect you always. I'll see you next time.